Hi, my name is Lauren. I'm the technical trainer for Genesis Attachments. In today's video, I want to take a few minutes to discuss your daily walk-around routine with you. There are a number of items that you can incorporate into your day-to-day operations which can help prevent failures and ultimately eliminate downtime and keep your operating costs to a minimum. Many of these things are going to seem fairly obvious. You want to make sure to check your blade radiuses. Our maximum service radius on the primary and secondary cutting blades is 1/8 of an inch. On the piercing tips, the recommended radius is 3/16. We get asked fairly often how much runtime that is, which is a fairly subjective question. In most cases, the primary and secondary blade should run between 40 and 80 hours before needing a rotation, and the piercing tips can run twice that perhaps. It's a fairly common practice to run 2 sets of piercing tips to each set of blades as they wear and they're rotated to the 3rd and 4th edge. You also want to make sure to check your bolt torque every day. Along with the shimming of the blades, the gaps, the radiuses, you also want to make sure all the blades are tight. If they're wiggling in the pockets, they're doing damage, and they can actually erode the pocket and create clearance issues further down the road. You also want to make sure to inspect the pivot group. Make sure that all the bolts are tight. Make sure that all the welds are intact. There's no cracks, as well as on the rear side, back side of the stick. You also want to check all the gusset welds. If there are cracks along here, they need to be addressed. You'd like to be able to address those before the wrap were to get folded over, which would require heat and a more substantial repair. You also want to look at any pieces of jaw armor. The lower jaw as well as the underside of the upper jaw may have jaw armor on it. They have perimeter welds, which are applied in a very specific manner where there are no welds at the ends where they run across. But you want to make sure to check all these pieces. And if any of the jaw armor is splitting, cracking, folding away, or damaged, those pieces should be either repaired or replaced. Now we'll move to the subhead. Now on the rotational subhead, you still want to check the same types of welds. You want to check the welds alongside the bracket, the sides of the stick, as well as around the wraps. Anywhere that's welded should be inspected. You should do this every day. It should only take a few minutes, but it can help eliminate larger failures in the future. You also want to check around any pin bosses or where the bracket bosses are. As these wear, the pins and the brackets tend to get loose and they become more prone to cracking. If you have worn components or worn pins, they should be inspected, measured, or replaced or repaired. You also want to make sure that there's no major structural issues on the subhead. And it's also good practice to take the subhead cover off, as well as the main shear stick cover once a week, so that you can inspect the internal components. Check the hydraulic hoses for damage, leaks, failing O-rings, loose bolts, those types of items. It also gives you an opportunity to look around the inside of the stick to check those welds for cracks as well. The same is true of the subhead components. There's a gearbox, a rotational motor, as well as some hydraulic components inside the subhead that are also points that could fail. So you want to make sure to pull all those covers off once a week, check the bolts, Loctite, retighten as needed, and make sure that the shear is going to operate without actually damaging itself by running something loose or in failing conditions. If you have questions about any of these components or how to inspect them, please give us a call at 1-888-SHEAR-IT. Thank you.